Hello crafty friends, it's Alicia of the Call Me Crafty Al YouTube channel, and in today's video I'm going to be making my second alternative using the April 2020 paper pumpkin kit. I hope you'll stick around and see what I'm going to make. I want to say a great big welcome back to my subscribers and regular viewers, and if this is your first time to my channel, I hope that by the end of this video, you'll be inspired to click on that subscribe button below and maybe even tap on the bell for notifications. Yesterday I shared a video where I created my first alternative for the month. It's the card I'm holding here in front of me. If you would like to see how I made this, check out the description box below and I do have a link to this. For today's video, I'm going to be trying a technique that I have never tried before, so cross your fingers, let's hope this works. This is what Gina K from Gina K Designs calls acetate smacking, I believe. She had a live on Friday night where she shared the technique. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night, at least during the quarantine, she goes live on her Facebook page and her YouTube channel and shares a fun card that she makes, and she also has some uplifting words. It's fun to watch. You can craft along with her or just, watch and chat. I will link her YouTube channel below if you want to check it out. For my card today from the kit, I'll be using the Stampin' Spot that came with it. And then from the stamp set, I'll be using the tree leaves, the trunk, and then the sentiment that says, "I'll always be here for you." And then for my piece of cardstock, this is actually a scrap from the cards that I made yesterday since I cut those apart. Now later I will add, I think, probably a black mat and a card base that I have from my stash. But some other items from my own stash are here on the right. I have two more Stampin' Spots. I have Coastal Cabana and Basic Gray. These are actually Stampin' Spots I have gotten before in paper pumpkin kits. I need a mister, so I will be using my Stampin' Up! Mini Mister for the first time. I've had this for probably a couple years and haven't used it yet, so again, cross your fingers, let's hope this works. I filled it up with some water and I hope we're good to go on that. And then I will also need some black ink, and I chose Memento Tuxedo Black. Now here at the bottom you can't really see it, but I just got out a thin piece of acetate, and that's the surface that I'll be working on. Once I start the process, I will go to a voiceover, so if I leave you with any questions, make sure to leave those in the comment section below. Let's get crafty! For the first step in today's card, I got out my 3 inks, my scrap of white cardstock, the piece of acetate, the Stampin' Up! Mister, and then I am protecting my work surface with this cutting board. This was just something I bought at the Dollar Tree. It helps protect my surface and it was super cheap. To get this party started, I need to add my ink to my piece of acetate. What I do is just kind of twist it back and forth and tap it on the piece of acetate, and I make 3 different rows, one of each color. Now my Basic Gray ink pad was drier than the other 2, so I had to give that one a little extra attention. Once I was done with the 3rd color, that pretty green, I got out my Stampin' Up! Mister and I sprayed that pretty generously. You do want that ink to move around on there, so it takes a little more water than I thought. I actually did this before and I had to redo it because I got really splotchy. So you'll want to get some water on there, move it around if you can. And if you find that the ink won't run, get that mister back out and you'll see here how it becomes more watery, and that's going to be the consistency that you want. Once that's nice and wet, you're going to take your piece of cardstock and put it right down in that inky puddle. Kind of move that around, squish it in there. Now I will tell you, this probably wasn't the best cardstock for the technique. It did get pretty wet. Down at the bottom I had a puddle on my cardstock, so I just took a paper towel and wiped that excess off. Just to be safe, to make sure I didn't get extra ink on anything, I did go ahead and move that piece of acetate off to the side. And then I pulled out my heat tool just so I could dry this quickly to move on to the next step. Now Gina, when she did hers on Friday night, once she dried it, she did go and ink it up again, but I decided to stop while I was ahead on this one. Once I had this piece all dried, I got out my trimmer so I could cut it down. I ended up taking about 1/8 of an inch off each edge, and the final size of this piece was 5 inches wide by 3 3/4 inches tall. While I had my trimmer out, I got out a piece of black cardstock and I cut a mat for my inked piece. This is just going to be slightly larger than the piece itself, 1/16 of an inch all the way around, which means that I cut it 1/8 of an inch longer on both edges. So this piece is 5 1/8 by 3 7/8, and you'll see there's just a little black border. And now it's time to do the stamping. I will be stamping everything in the black ink, and that is kind of too why I decided to go with the black border. And because I thought that I might need to stamp everything more than once to get a nice solid black, I did go ahead and pull out my Misty stamp positioner. This allows me that if everything isn't nice and crisp, I can re-ink it and stamp it exactly where it needs to go. Originally, I was going to have my piece of cardstock down in that lower right corner, but I decided as I was placing my tree leaves down there that I wanted those to hang off the right edge a little bit. So I scooted my cardstock over to the 5 1/2 inch mark and put my magnet down. Now if anything slips when I am stamping, I know that that left edge needs to be at the 5 1/2 inch mark on the ruler. Once I had my tree trunk and my leaves where I wanted them, I removed the leaves and then I stamped that tree trunk first. That's because later I want to stamp the leaves separate so they can go lower down into that tree trunk and make it look more like it was just a single stamp. Now you'll see here on the trunk, I did ink it up a couple times to get a nice solid black, and on the tree leaves, I ended up actually having to do it 3 or 4 times. There was one area that just didn't want to stamp. Now while I'm here, I do want to go ahead and give you the secret word for today's video. Remember I told you in yesterday's video that I'm going to be coming back this next week with the instructions on how you can win one of the 4 $25 gift cards that I'm going to be giving away in my 10,000 subscriber giveaway. And today's secret word is family. Now, I haven't said all of the rules yet, but just like I said yesterday, you cannot use the word anywhere in any comments that you leave below. If you do try to point out the secret word for the day in the comments, I will delete it and then you'll be disqualified from the giveaway, and nobody wants that to happen. Once I was satisfied with the ink saturation on the tree stamp, I got out the sentiment. Once again, I'll be using the "I'll always be here for you" stamp, and I played with the placement just a little bit, and then once I decided on the placement, I grabbed the stamp with the door of my Misty and I inked that up. This did turn out pretty crisp after that first stamp, but I did decide to go ahead and ink it up just one more time to make sure it was even darker. Now that all of the pieces of the card were finished, it was time to start assembly. The first thing I did was put my inked piece onto the black mat. Now because the cardstock got wet and it wasn't really made for water, it did warp quite a bit, so I put some extra adhesive on the back of there before adhering it to the black mat. These 2 layers will then just be adhered to the front of a card base. These card bases are just something I keep on hand here. I buy really heavyweight white cardstock at Hobby Lobby. I cut it in half and then I pre-score it all so it's ready to go whenever I need one. Now the card is almost ready, but it needs one final thing, some sparkle. I got out some sequins I had in my stash. It's almost a clear sequin, but there is a little holographic look to it. I placed 3 small glue dots from the paper pumpkin kit onto my card front, pulled the release paper on those, and then I got out my quick pick tool and I picked up and placed down 3 of those sequins right on top of the glue dots. And here's a look at the finished card. Let me know below if you've ever tried this ink on acetate technique. I hope you enjoyed getting to see how I made my card today. As always, if you did, I appreciate a thumbs up. And until my next video, I hope you're having a crafty day. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch all the way to the end of the video. I hope that you'll consider clicking on one of the videos or playlists I have linked above, and if you're interested in any of the products or tools that I use in the video, I do have some links in the description box.